Hello, everyone. I think we are already live now. But before we get started, as usual, we'll wait a few seconds more for all registered participants. But during that time, I will try to engage you in the entertainment a bit. So if you may answer in the question, answer the question which I will address, if you are seeing us and hearing us correctly. If you may use the comment section, it will be amazing. You can say there, where are you from, or also from which organization, country. But the most important thing is that to give us info if you are hearing us and seeing us, hearing us correctly. Okay, so cool. I think everything's loud and clear. Cool. Thank you, Jen. Amazing. Thumbs up for that. So thank you. Cool. So remember to click and subscribe our Executive Automats YouTube channel because there you can find a lot of cool stuff regarding the D365 finance operations and regression testing, automated testing, and also the security setup topics related, all with Dynamics 365. I'm Rafał Najszewski, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar, Dynamics 365 Finance Operations and Dynamics AX2012 Security, Basic Differences and Upgrade Summary. Okay, so I'm glad that you have joined us, and a couple of housekeeping before we get started and move forward to the agenda of today's meeting. The chat section, as we have tested, you can use for addressing the questions during whole webinar, and we will answer to all of those questions during the session, or if we will have enough time at the end of the session as a question answer session in the end. Okay, remember that we are recording this session, so we'll send the link to the recording to the email address which you have registered with. So please remember to check all your email boxes. Okay, moving forward to today's webinar agenda. First, we will show you the comparison between the AX2012 and D365 finance operations regarding the security, what was and what we have now. Then we'll move to the primary areas of concern regarding the whole security setup and what you can expect in terms of the project duration if you are thinking about the security project. Then how you should approach the design phase of correct security in the 365 finance operations. And after that, tools. We'll give you the overview of the tools, how you can enhance the efficiency of the security project. Okay, and last not by least, this questions and answer session. So today with me, Bartosz Piech, our product manager of the Executive Automats and Executive Automat Security Setup Framework. Thank you, Bart, for joining me today for the session. We have a good stuff for you guys. So yeah, Bart, the stage is yours. And yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Raf, for the introduction. Welcome, everybody. Maybe to extend also primary as a position before leading the product department where we do test automation and a lot of different other stuff. I was a security consultant for a while, and I was doing quite a bit stuff in it. Also in X Plus, I had personally chance to deploy full security model for a nice retail organization. And we've done quite a nice different challenges with security. We've seen quite a lot, and I think we are able to share with you a lot of very advanced stuff and very basic stuff. Today we're going to focus on the basics, of course. Maybe we're going to do mix match. Definitely, we want to share some challenges that you can expect from security. But this is a topic which is a rare thing. If you're going to look for some help from consultants, which are helping with security, this is a very there are just few people from contracting and consultants which are having a significant expertise in the security area. That's why knowledge of that is something good to share. Plus, it is good to know that there are some tools that they are in capability to help you with delivery of the role-based security model. Starting with AX2012 and finance and operations, what you can expect from the differences. We can say the major model lives the same way. You have roles, duties, and privileges. For those of you who don't know what it is, these are the roles-based security model. So we have the roles, which can be understood as more or less positions or so position jobs in the organization. Duties, which might be responsibilities areas. So it's like a lower level of certain area in the business, and privileges, more like an group of activities that you perform in certain area. And underneath that, of course, because these roles, duties, and privileges, they are groups at the end of the day, we have entry points. Entry points, which are the singular buttons that you need to interact with in order to post invoice, in order to create PO, SO, and so on and so on. All these elements, they have behind them entry points. Yeah. So in general, if you think about differences, in 2012 we had the RLS. Right now there is just XDS available. So this is something which was excluded. In 2012 there was a tool called Microsoft Security Development Tool, and we've used that a lot in finance and operations. You don't have that out of the box. You can't install it in easy way. So you don't have nice tool where when you start a project you have to rely on practically practically there's no help for you to build in kind of an automatic way the security. Of course, you can convert some task recordings into duties, but they have some downsides, and the standard mechanism is pretty basic, and it is not recognizing everything properly. So just keep that in mind. And in 2012, when you were creating security, you were doing that in AOT. So in AOT, we were building roles, duties. We've been able to modify that, pack it in project, and shoot from dev machine where we build up the elements. We were able to transfer that to UAT or UAT security, where the business user could say it works or it is not working. In finance and operations, this is the biggest difference, because practically most of organizations are using that model where your all roles, duties, and privileges that you build on F&O, they are a table entry. So they are customization that you build, and they are actually not a physical object. They are just entries in the tables. So this means that you have significant number of entries in the table which are building your whole security model. Standard of finance and operations gives you the chance to erase the whole model, so you can just restart it to clean vision of the security, how it is on Contoso, we can say. This is a, of course, benefit, but on the other side, somebody can do a mess on the environment. Of course, entry points, following back to the structure, again in F&O and Dynamics finance and in 2012 we have the same table fields, permissions. We have form controls, so code permissions are available. So that's kind of the same, but this can't be misleading for you. You can't take AX2012 package and move it to finance and operations. There are no mechanisms which will do that, because at the end of the day they are different systems. So you can't move one-to-one the whole security model. In every implementation process, you should think about placing a whole package, a whole stage, however we're going to call that, element which is related to security creation. Moving forward to the pain points, yeah, we're you think about security creation, it is simply, unfortunately, this will be kind of a small nightmare. The whole process, since you don't have so much tools, you need to redesign it. You need to redesign it in the kind of organized way. Dynamics doesn't give you also the standard approach or some methodology on that, so it is good to find yourself a methodology. On the right side of the screen, you have a screenshot from the form information, which is available in FNO. This one, in the past, you had access to AOT, so you were able to find out what is in the system, what I'm browsing, what I'm looking for, what entry point it is. Right now, it is a little bit harder to do that, especially that the system is not recognizing properly entry points. So you need to browse a lot and ask a lot of developer help in order to identify what entry point is in the system. So since in FNO you don't have AOT access, you need to have Visual Studio access. And this makes the whole process a nightmare because you need to have definitely technical skills. You need to ask developers for help. So that's why we pointed out this one. Reporting and the whole structure of licenses. This is an element which right now is a mess because Dynamics is a transition from operational level licenses into the basic model. And right now in finance and operations, when you want to tell what license I need to be aligned with what I purchased from Microsoft, it is a problem because the standard reporting is not streamlined. It is not saying clearly that you need X amount of licenses and you go, you buy, and you are secured. A lot of partners are creating different reports for themselves just to make sure that they know exactly the customer needs X amount of licenses. So you will see on the market that there are plenty of different approaches on license calculation. We have also one which is tweaked basic model, but to the point, right now you have to calculate yourself a situation where your row will have entry points which are operational and basic in the same moment. So you have to deal with those hard situations. And lastly, if you think about licensing in AX2012, where we had enterprise license, team member activity, it was pretty straightforward. So this problem was not existing there. It was still something which was, can say, pain in the ass for people which were thinking about the costs, but we're going to go to that topic later on. Right now, it's even more complicated. Moving along to the next slide. Just a second. Oh, thank you. Regarding the durations and our recommendations, we can say, out of the experience, we see clearly that the security project should start within the implementation moment. So when you do CRP, when you start your delivery of the modules, you are already able to build security based on the fits. So application standard functionalities which are fitting the requirements of the business. So the fits can be easily converted to the security, and you can work on that. The gaps, of course, they can be reiterated, but the gaps, this is something you can later on deliver as well. But it is good to combine security creation within implementation moment, to not leave it after implementation. And this is a wrong approach where what we see on the market, that partners are leaving that to the customer. So the end user needs to build themselves role-based configuration based on standard. And 99% situation, the end user will, as a result, be asked by Microsoft to pay more for licenses that they're supposed to pay because they are not able to build from the standard elements appropriate access level which will be aligned with the licensing model or licenses number that they paid for. So please keep in mind to, as an end user, to make sure that your partner will help you out with the role creation and proper security access to the users. You can always start with low-hanging fruits. You can kind of make, we call it organization distribution, a process matrix, to understand where are the most users working, which department, what title, what job. So when we are thinking about those most occurrences, we are trying to analyze what process they handle, and we build the role precisely for those most occurrences. So thanks to that, you are able to, with the partner, to minimize the risk that you're going to exceed, or you're going to exceed just with few people, this license model that you've assumed within the implementation. The security projects are usually taking a lot of time. We've seen projects taking over 12 or 18 months to delivery, from process matching roles, duties, and equal to process of the users, then to applying some code permissions to limit the access, and then building SODs. These are over 18 months projects. So this is something which can be critical, because of course this process includes subject matter experts. So our business users, which are doing UATs and working day by day, they need to participate in the UAT phase of the security. We have to think about phase in the implementation where the business does something called user acceptance test of the current security shape. They need to tell us that they are able to perform all activities. We need to have functional consultants, because unfortunately, if you don't use any tool specifically to help you out with the security creation, you will need a lot of knowledge about the processes, configuration, and definitely communication with developer to point out where I need to find some specific entry points hidden in the methods or classes, which can happen. Skipping this part, of course, IT admin is a resource needed to the project as well. IT admin for delivery of the security, IT admin for refreshing the database and deploying the new version of the system, just to make sure that we have the latest functionalities delivered within the latest cherry picking or the UAT phase. So we are able to build roles for the newest functionalities. The thing is, once again mentioned here, please do not think about possibility to transfer roles from 2012 to finance and operations, as this is something which will be, this will be madness as well. It is good to package. So we were talking before about the delivery of the roles in finance and operations. When you are building your roles in that customized module, in that security configuration module, using the security layer, we can say the tables, you were pushing 100% of the model. You can't take one role or one duty out of the model. You are taking everything. That's kind of the problem, because you might overwrite everything from what exists in your endpoint. So this is something to address. It is good to build specific environment for development of the security, to make sure that you are delivering packages of the roles, not a bunch, in the bulk, new roles to flood the system, and being unable to verify that they are need to exist on the environment. So there are some obstacles regarding the delivery of roles, duties, and privileges for your implementation. And moving forward, I think this is the moment where we're gonna be able to start.
Yeah, and before that, guys, if you want to test our tool, you right now will be able to do that. Just click into the link, which will be within seconds shared with you guys in the chat and the comments section, to book yourself a free trial program of executive automats for security setup. So all those things which can be useful in terms of identification of the entry points and helping you to streamline whole process considering the configuration of the security roles and securable objects in Dynamics 365 Finance Operations can be done with the free trial program. So feel free to do so. And I can say you will, it can be a game changer, especially in terms of the length of the project. So yeah, Bart, I think now is the time that we'll do the showcase. And yeah, I will right now share your screen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raf, for mentioning the project length, because this is something which is important, as we have nice case studies where a customer was able to build one role for full position, so for full responsibilities of a certain job in the organization for one day. It took them 10 days to build 10 roles, and those 10 roles were actually covering over 70% of their needs, which was at the result, the biggest savings, the biggest possible quick win, we can say. Why we say that? Basically, in typical organization, you're going to have 60, 70% people working on some very basic processes. If you're going to give them standard roles, you might lead up to license exceeding. It will be very easy to clean them, even if you're going to have a month time, less people. You'll be able to, with this kind of tool, you'll be able to record processes, convert them to duties to roles, and then one by one, row by row, distribute the new access rights. And this is kind of the approach we started always with. We do build position distribution. So you imagine your organization as a graph. You take your specific organization and you outline all salespeople or purchase people, warehouse. So you build the organization hierarchy. You identify a process underneath each of these people working in the organization. You record this process one by one, which might be also a nice benefit of using that in test automation. Because you can also say that the test automation and security, and actually most of the other activities you perform, they are based on processes. So if you're going to do it right in the beginning for testing or security, you benefit out of other elements that you're going to later on face, like one version or proactive quality updates. So when you have your process recordings, you convert that to security. You can verify the license level for if you are exceeding or if there are some optimizations possible, and you do verification with your business
Bart,
users.
sorry for jumping in here, but because we have a huge request from
Sure.
our audience that cool, amazing, thank you.
So you do the business user acceptance test to make sure that they know exactly and they are capable of doing their business. Very important element. If you're going to find some gaps, you reiterate until business tells you this is good. We have to do that step, and very often the same with test automation. We have requests to automate UAT. You can't do that. You have to make sure that the business actually, when they are accepting the final shape of something they are waiting for, they need to sign it. And if you didn't do that, you might end up with some pretty big unsatisfied number of people in the organization. So when you have assurance that the final role was signed off by the business user, they are happy with it, you add that. So you build the security layer. You can move one specific role, just this one, or just the duty, to your layer, and then you can switch to the next position. And you circle around through the whole spectrum of the users, whole spectrum of jobs that you have in organization. If you're going to ask how this is different between standard roles and custom roles built that way, the standard based package of roles, duties, and privileges in finance and operations are coming from APQC library, which is something which was bought by Microsoft years ago. And this is a baseline of understanding how the globally business works, different positions, different abstracts of different job types. And as we all know, every organization is specific and every organization has its own needs. So we can't use standard for everybody. especially when the standard rows are giving you the result that you pay more for licenses. This is something which you have to have in mind. And considering that, I can show you a quick example, very, very simple one. We took our beloved Jimmy Kimmel and Matt Damon, and probably you know these guys, and they are making some funny jokes around US. We took like two personas, both of them sales representative. They are having different accounts, AWX, SSW2, and SSW1. So these are, you can say, Dynamics accounts, and they are having two different roles: sales representative, the standard one, and custom sales representative, built out of processes which were recorded, you can say. Yeah. Then standard one, sales representative, sums up to 2047 entry points. What does it mean? This means that you are adding 2000 possible business operations, possible business actions. 2000 is big, we can definitely say, considering that the custom role, when you tailor it to your needs, it is just 21. So this means that you give just 1% of what you give from the standard. It is a significant difference. And this, in a result, means that every license, every entry point that you have, it has maintain and view user license. And if you have 21, it is clean for you what makes the license exceeding, or what makes your whole role expensive. When you take 2000, it will be nightmare to find it out, especially when you have 150 users working on the position, and it will be so important for you to make the optimization. It will be just hard to do that. So in order to make it more handleable, kind of possible for shape out some savings, it is good to use the standard. When it the custom ones, how it looks like when it comes to results. So I was mentioning every entry point gives you access a specific button, and this is the standard. So you have multiple subtabs, you have some groups, and this is the situation when you build up precisely what you need. Just few elements that you actually used. And there are not only positive aspects on the cost of the licenses, but also it has result of learning curve. If you start your day job, first day as an accountant or sales representative, if you're going to see so many buttons, you will say, oops, what to use? I may have here 2 confirmations. If I have just few elements and I just want to create confirmation, super clean, it is easier for me to avoid mistakes. And there are a lot of proofs that it increases the way how people are working with the system, and it is just minimizing amount of mistakes, because you can just go to the places of the system which are not configured, or just invoke some error messages which shouldn't be. Simply you are not configuring the system in 100%, and you may use some functionalities which was which shouldn't be available for the end user. So there are a lot of benefits that are making you benefit from the custom approach. And at the end of the day, you were able to run a quick report, which will tell you that you have number of people in the system, and they are basic finance, and you have to also pay for their attachment licenses. So you're able to identify who has what, and what are the current total costs of the licensing of your organization, and then you can build new, you can say, milestones when you're going to optimize more positions. So that's from the perspective of the quick mirror showcase. If you're going to have any questions regards the approach or the following screen, just let me know so I can elaborate a bit more later on. But since I promised Raf today to show a bit more of executive automats for security, I'll switch screen to the application itself. So yeah, in the system administration, you have this possibility to open up the security roles process maintain, and then you see the whole cockpit where you have your business areas. We can say these are our areas where we are creating new roles. So I can tell, all right, we have warehouse, HR, finance. We have head of the procurement role, pricing specialist role, and underneath the role, I've defined number of processes they handle. We have 5 processes from accounts payable, and if I need to load more processes, I can either use task recordings or executive automates, the testing tool that we also deliver, or you can help yourself with standard existing elements, which are just the roles or sorry, duties and privileges in particular. And every process which was identified, like receive the products, this process precisely needs 3 entry points to be executed. So in order to do that, I can tell the user that they need the access. So I can load right now a new task recording for you to show you how easy it is. So let's browse for webinar SSW. This is one of the elements we have. And here, account receivable sales create. Good enough. We can load process. System automatically finds for you entry points and also controls permissions, so code permissions and table permissions. So you have access to everything. And this is especially important when you work on some ISV modules or you have in-house development. System loads the entry points, and now we have new process added to the list. Right now, our pricing specialist will handle 6 processes instead of 5, focused only on AP. For sales create, I need 3 entry points, and I can tell the system, all right, let's create new duty for SO creation. So this is going to be SO webinar process. So webinar. And now the duty is created. I can tell the system to save the changes to the role as well. And if we're going to follow the security configuration module, you will see that there are objects for publishing for my changes, including the pricing specialist SO webinar process, SO process privilege and duty. So on the duty level, we'll be able to find quickly our newly created duty. Privilege. And underneath privileges, we're going to see all the entry points identified by the system. And what is important, you're going to notify that the references are giving you also information about the controls, which were existing. Some intercompany elements were identified. So system goes to very deep level of the system. So in particular, then you can apply the role to the user, and the system with very less privileges will have just one module available and much more capabilities for us. I want to show you one more option here. So it is a very known situation where you are delivering security roles to the end user, and they're going to tell you, yeah, but I need that button available. So you say, oh, I forgot about that one. So you say you need sales order confirmation, yeah? And the business user accepts, and then as a consultant, you have to find out what exactly is behind sales order confirmation. So right-click, form information, sales table list page. In 2012, it was much easier because by AOT, you can find that out quickly. Now, in finance and operations, you right-click and you say, form information, this is a sales table list page, menu item type display, which is definitely not true because this is a form name and form entry point and not element I clicked. The control information is also misleading because it is not giving you precise info what is behind. That's why we've created another extension to extend the standard where you are able to find out exactly what is behind element you just highlighted to make sure that you can fix those smaller problems when the users are just needing 1-2 buttons for accomplishing the process. So I can also view permissions here to find out every element visible here on the form. So I can see all entry points available. So we can say I have kind of access to Visual Studio even to browse for elements which are available on the screen instead of asking developers. Plus, you see here form controls, which are possible code permissions hidden. So if you found, all right, I need some journals, so order confirmation, quotation confirmation journal, let's say, an invoice journal, I can take those 3 entry points and I can add them straight to our duty that we created a second ago together. So this was AR10 sales create. And finally, our duty that we've created for the process. Let's come back here to security process roles maintain module. In our accounts payable pricing specialist, we're going to see AR, and our role was extended by a few more entry points. Right now, I can just save, rerun, and do the same verification. The application helps you a lot on building roles, on make them very precise, but also there are, as you've seen before, reportings to make security analysis from the licensing perspective. So you are able to calculate quickly what user has what kind of license, and you are able to apply custom pricing based on your partner agreement, how much you should pay for a specific user. And if you're going to have, if you're going to found a user which is very expensive, you are able to tell or verify why they're expensive. So I can go to the security summary and I can find the role they are holding, and I can find out what entry point makes the specific role so expensive. So there are a lot of elements to help you out to just optimize the cost, to find out the cost and optimize it at the end of the day. If you're gonna suffer from some data extortion, if somebody just did something, like we can say, not illegal, but questionable in the organization, and you want to make sure that nobody else will be able to do that, but you don't know who else has access to the specific module, there are some functionalities here available for you. So you are able to take, let's say, April. April did something wrong. Let's go to the user security objects. Yeah, this is the module. So I can take a specific person like April. We can find out what roles the person has. Pretty simple. And then we can find who else has the same role. So if the role which is giving access to some very critical for organization area, you are able to find out who else has the same role. So that's the thing we are giving you the option to do. So you do kind of a cross validation, cross checking who might do the same thing. You revoke the access, and then you can make some report out of that for auditors to make sure that nobody else will perform that illegal activities. There are a lot of technical advanced stuff in today's session. We can dive in more, but I highly recommend to do trial, which is free, where you can download the package for your environment, deploy, and work on some custom roles. We can prepare for you some custom package. So we can send you some custom created by us roles that you can deploy on your environment and see how it works. There are massive savings. And, from our perspective, this is one of the pain points of Dynamics, which we want to solve, because we clearly want Dynamics be much better than SAP. And the licensing is something which is a huge mess. That's why the product exists. and we hope that it will just help bring more end users to our world. Thank you so
Dynamics
much, and
365
waiting for questions.
world.
If
Guys.
if there are some questions, happy to respond.
Guys, many thanks, Bart, for that. Remember, to book yourself this free trial program, you need to click on the link which was shared in the comment section, both on LinkedIn and YouTube. So feel free to do so. And as the Bart said, the biggest advantage, I would say, of this tool is that we can easily prevent for any more time losing with a level of sophistication with embedded functionality of Dynamics 365. So basically, this is, we call it the game changer because we really want to bring more and more people using the D365, and especially that there's such a huge gap between what we had in AX2012 and what we receive with D365 FNO. Okay, guys. So now I think we can jump into the question and answer session. I will check the questions which were addressed. I see. From Shubrak, do we have a document template to gather requirements specifically around the security requirements from the client and the security matrix spreadsheet? Well,
we can send you. We call it business process card. I need to recall the name. We can send you over an example, which was very simple, but it worked quite well. Of course, the document template to gather requirements is just the one thing. You always need to. You can't send that to the end user and ask to fill out the details. We always try to recommend to build up a brainstorming session.
Exactly.
Miro or Mural, there are some nice functionalities, and applications which are available on the market for brainstorming. And within those brainstorming sessions, we use these applications where we collaborate with the business users and they just write down elements, processes. And then out of that, it is easier to build roles and make sure that you have 100% of your needs. And regarding the security matrix, I don't know if you were referring to segregation of duties, but we have also segregation of duty template. If you would like, we can send you over. These elements are needed for SOX compliance organizations. This is probably one of the most complicated things you can do in FNO regards the security, time consuming, but needed by SOX compliance.
Yeah. So basically, Sobrak, if you may contact us directly, or you can via this trial booking, we will remember you. So use it freely, and we will contact you considering the documents which Bart said about which Bart said. Okay. Moving forward to the next question. Sorry, misclick. Can we customize roles for the same? Sorry, for some of the legal entities, not for all.
I think this is a question for configuration.
Yeah.
So, there is a standard functionality in the system which gives you the chance to apply specific entity access to specific role. So when you think about building role for sales representative, you can have that one and add access only to UK and I don't know, Italy and Switzerland. So the person will have access to only specific entities. There are standard system functionalities to do that. They are very easy to use. And just to make sure, we also do a lot of trainings for security, so we can do that for you as well.
Thank you, Bart. Then another question. Can we use the task recorder to prepare custom roles? Well, of course. But I think we haven't mentioned how we are physically have this business process driven approach to how to create. We are creating in terms of our methodology the custom security roles. But sorry, maybe I have jumped in too early to answer this question. If you want to continue, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, you've answered that properly. You are able to do that, to prepare custom roles. You are able to do some standard ones with them. So yeah, that's correct.
And we have a question also from what is security as DLC?
But probably this refers to security development lifecycle. You can let us know if this is something you've meant, Vidya. But definitely, you can have different approaches how you will build roles, and there are some organized way how you are able to build the roles within the life cycle. So it means within the implementation process. This is something we talk about on the beginning. So how you build the roles and how you apply that in some organized process. So it will be possible to estimate the total length and the costs and the resources needed to deploy your security layer. Let us know what exactly you mean by the SDLC, but
Exactly.
we can follow the conversation later on.
And we have another question from George. How can we get the template for SOD?
We'll send you over
Yeah.
by email or LinkedIn. So we're gonna just contact you after.
Just leave the contact details considering this topic, and we'll reach you out regarding that. Also, we have another question from Auto. Do we allow to export only some group of custom role which you have created? Example, in system 10 custom roles present, but I need only four needs to extract for now.
Yeah, that's Atul, this is one of the problems which Dynamics has. It allows you only to take 100% of the security layer. Yeah, so we can say it is a painful process because you need to delete those roles which you don't want to take. So in the standard, there's going to be just a lot of clicks. We can say take 100% the row on the site on the environment where you're going to delete those which you don't need to have just those 4 that you need, and then take just those 4 rows as a whole layer and deliver that as a whole layer to the endpoint where you want it. So you will need a mid environment where you're going to do those cuttings, and then by whole layers you're gonna send that. That's unfortunately the only way, or you're gonna delete some data from database, which is more and more impossible. It's gonna start to be impossible soon. Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't be able to modify or make some do updates on SQL because yeah, the ERP data is everything that we've got on the organization, and that's a very nice comment. You can use DMF for that. Probably yes, but it will be also very hard. I believe it will be quite a massive job to do.
Thank you, Bart. We have a few more questions from Shabrak. How do we get access to your ISV solutions? So basically, you can use the our webpage, www.executiveautomats.com, and you can see what kind of solutions as independent of software vendor we are, and what we have and what we can deliver to you with not only software but also the service with this software. And also another question of yours, and is your ISV only target for security requirements or provide any other features too? So if you are asking about directly the executive automat security setup, yes, this is mainly a tool focused. I would say it's basically a deployment package for D365 and its operation, but this tool gives you possibility to streamline whole security configuration process. So starting from finding out what kind of security object, I say entry point, is related with which entry point, which an entry point is related with security object, to give you the ability to configure the alignment between the user activity and the security, and also to utilize the Dynamics 365 correctly as you are creating as custom roles. You are limiting the user interface, as the bot mentioned. So basically, you have a lot of cool functionalities with this tool to stream out whole process, basically, because you have, on one hand, you have security, segregation of duties, and also a better experience considering the UI with D365. Okay. Another question from Cesare. Can you elaborate on savings in licensing and productivity? What to expect in average by using your extension versus the standard? Oh, well, it really I would say this is like a project-specific question, but it's very hard to... Yeah, but go ahead, Bart.
So to the first one, what to expect from the licensing savings. So we have nice case studies where customers are saving over 100k euros, 100,000 euros per year for licensing model that they rebuild. So this is not an example which is big. There are more heavy examples where the optimization was significant, mainly because system admin roles was the most popular role in the organization. So everybody was hyper expensive, especially when you have different types of the business, like business operations, which are focused a lot on finance activities. If you are running some shared service centers, these areas, this type of organizations might be quite hard for optimizations, because you are using the most expensive functions from Dynamics. But on the other hand, in those specific cases, you are gaining the most from productivity. Finance people, they are just surrounded by multiple functionalities, by multiple buttons, so it is good for them to limit. And the limiting is simply the process which takes time. So when it comes to the average, we see, before we've mentioned an example, a company from Switzerland, they took and created 10 roles in 10 days, which in a result, when you don't have this type of tool, you can lead up to 7 days per role, which gives you practically 7 times more. But this depends heavily on the type of the business. If the processes that you handle are very, the numbers are like between 5 to 10 on the most popular roles, popular positions, it may be even quicker. If you are having a lot of operations in finance, in F&O, this might be more expensive. What is the good about that whole process and the product is that it is the whole methodology. You are able to take one row, and based on number of processes, you can create some KPIs, some understanding what will be the cost. So what we recommend is always to make the distribution, count processes, and based on numbers, just answer the question how costful it will be.
So basically, that is like, it's quite project specific, but still you can save a lot depending what was your starting point, considering what kind of roles and privileges you have used before starting the project. Predefined, custom, or it was, very sophisticated roles with the business process which are related to them, or different. It's quite project specific, but you can expect in the average quite a lot of savings. Thank you, Cesare. Thank you, Bart. Another question: can security role created restrict user from exporting data to Excel?
Sure. So in the system, not every button has entry point. If you're going to apply to an entry point, to a button, an entry point, you'll be able to do that. So this is typically something which you have to have in mind when you want to limit or restrict access to elements like export to XO. And there are some other way arounds how you could limit that regarding the exporting of the data. This is one of the possibilities to the data extortion, so that's very important. But indeed, the role can restrict access to it, but you might need to do a small modification to the system.
Thank you. Another question from Nazim: how to find out the specific tags required with security role privilege? Probably how to track the specific.
No, how to find out that specific task requires security. So for that one, you don't need actually any tool. I can share quickly screen for you guys if you want. If you are in the system, there are standard. Raf, can you switch the?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So you are able to, let's say, be here, and there is a functionality called security diagnostics. We also use that for some reasons. And this functionality gives you identification, what role, what duty, and what privilege gives you access to certain view. So if you are trying to do some identification, what specific privilege gives you access to this specific task, I think the first point to do, you start with this one, security diagnostics. This is available practically on all list pages underneath the options, page options, security diagnostics. And as mentioned, this is the list of roles, privileges, and duties which are giving you access to specific places. So there might be a situation where you are searching for a specific privilege, because privilege will be ideal for us here. We are able to, they are the smallest one, so the best optimization from standard perspective. We take them and we can extract what is in privilege to find out potentially what might be needed for us to make sure that our user is capable of doing specific action. So I can say either custom ones, or there are some view sales order details. I can apply that to my end user. I hope that helped.
Thank you, Bart. Another question which we have is from Piotr. For a company with no SOD module implemented in AX 2012, which would like to transition to Dynamics365, should we resolve the issue before transition and implement SOD in old system, or will it be better to do that from the scratch in the new one? Also, I would appreciate this SOD template as well.
Sure, so we'll send the template.
Just share the contact with us. On the last page of our presentation, there will be email addresses of our sales team, and we'll be more than happy to share with you the documentation which you're asking. And go ahead, Bart, because I have jumped in a bit.
Sure. So, Piotr, the only problem which exists is that probably you're going to rebuild the duties. So the duties will have different names. So if you're going to build up your duties in finance and operations, you will need to practically modify your whole structure. So building up as the whole application functionality for SODs, these roles that you specify, and the way how system points out that you are, making some violations of SOD rules that you've set up, this stays the same. So we can say this could be nice element. Probably some duties will work the same way, but definitely you're going to have percentage of work to redo, because you will need to redesign duties, which at the end of the day will make your the project more cost ineffective, we can say. But again, if this is a requirement and your timeline of upgrade is quite further in time, let's say a few years, it might be needed. And this is something we have to do. Majority of the SOD duties probably will have the same naming conventions and so on, so they might stay the same. So you have to balance out. But the recommendation would be to do it on finance and operations if you don't have the regulatory demands or auditor demands, or you can just limit the SOD regulations, the SOD rules that you're going to set up to minimum in the system. But if you are using standard, building the standard roles, building the SOD will be a nightmare because you don't know exactly what is in the row, what duties in the row. So at the end, when you're adding new rows, you will have a lot of violations of the rules.
Thank
I
you,
hope that
Bart.
was understandable.
Yeah.
If you would like to follow up, we can have another session
Yeah.
where we can discuss this particular situation.
Thank you, Bart, for the question. Thank you, Bob, for the answer. Moving forward, I think this is like the last question. Can we use custom role across the legal entities? One custom role across the legal entities?
Yeah, sure. That's the same story we discussed
Yeah.
before. So you just build up a row. Of course, I mean, yeah, this is like when you have one process. Let's say you have sales creation for Italy, Switzerland, and Finland. They are all the same. You can say, sure, you can do that.
From the business
Yeah,
perspective. But in
if you
terms of the
have
system, it can be different.
if you have specific reporting for Finland, if
Exactly.
you have specific reporting for Switzerland and Sweden, then you're gonna think, all right, so actually I can't do that. I would need to create one security role for sales representative and another small portions, which will be sales representative and then Switzerland. And they have different maintenance as well. There might be different needs. Some countries, they might have some country managers might require to take out some data from the customer profile or from some elements because they are required. The law requires that. Some companies or some countries may have followed the GDPR. Some other will not. So that's there are some things which we have to have in mind when we're building the roles which are across the legal entities. So it is not 0-1 how it could be.
Again,
But
project specific thing a bit.
yeah, project specific thing.
Yeah, but thank you for the question. Bart, I think we don't have more questions. I will just share the screen with our contact details. So this is the contact details to me and my team from the sales team. I will be more than happy to all those guys which you have asked for a template. Feel free to reach us via our email addresses or book yourself this free trial program, and then we'll be able to also do some kind of alignment. What are your needs considering your security project and how it can be streamlined with our tool. Guys, amazing. Thank you for the session. Thank you, Bart, for being here. And also thank you for those questions during this day. Yeah, I'm hoping that we'll be able to see you around again. And please remember to visit our booth on Charlotte, North American Summit of Dynamics users. Will be there, and we will be happy to shake hands with you guys and discuss the topics considering the test automation or test automation and security setup topics related together. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.